Sad, but social.
Covering all the day's news from a studio somewhere in Southeast Asia.
Worldwide!
And talking about it with you.
Blah, blah, blah.
You're Up Late with Jason Page.
Hooah!
Or Up Early.
Good morning.
But just stay up.
It is time.
Here's Jason.
Thank you so much, Chad Erickson. I am Jason Page, and you are up late on a Thursday night back in the U.S. Just after 12 noon in Singapore, where we are, the red dot. Getting cozy and comfortable here. Good to have you along for the ride, and what a ride it will be. We got a lot to do over the next 55 minutes. I wasn't planning on having a guest today because I had so much I wanted to talk about because yesterday's show got kind of screwed up because of some technical glitches that we've been working out here in the first week of the show. So I had a whole bunch of things, to discuss, and the reality is you just never know where news is going to take you on a day-to-day basis. This RobinHood, Gamestop stock, hedge fund, Wall Street Bets Reddit story has really taken on a life of its own. It's one of the big financial stock market business stories of the last 20 years, really, if you talk to a lot of people. So we're going to get into that coming up here in a few minutes with Brett Arends of Marketwatch, longtime follower of the markets, specializes in retirement portfolios and things like that, talking about that kind of stuff. He's a guy I love to turn to when it comes to discussing stories in the stock market and stories in the business world. Brett Arends of Marketwatch will join me coming up here in just a few minutes, and I can't wait to talk to him and let you guys hear what the conversation is all about. Because what happened on Thursday was you had the stock reaching an all-time, this crazy high, up like 350%, this GameStop stock. And for people who don't know the story, go read up on it. A lot of people have been jumping off the sideline. People that aren't even necessarily into the stock market have been jumping in with this Wall Street Bets Reddit feed. And they've decided to go in and buy stocks based on, the advice of people that are kind of playing in the game a little bit. And one of them was GameStop, which the stock, I think at one point a few weeks ago, was $17. And the hedge funds, the guys making all the money, usually, not in this case, they've lost a ton, they were short selling. And Brett Arends will explain what that was all about. They were basically betting on GameStop stock to tank, and then they would make money the other way. It's the equivalent of a guy going to the craps table and betting on everybody at the table to lose their money. It's the guy that goes to the craps table and puts it on don't pass, or puts it on is betting on 7 to come out at the table. That's essentially what you had going on here. But then a bunch of community people in this Reddit feed get together and say, no. We want to get the hedge funds this time. We're going to bet on GameStop to go up. So we're all going to buy the stock. And they did. And the stock kept going up and up and up and up until it was like $340 or $350 a share. And then the fun had to stop because the hedge funds were getting their asses kicked. And RobinHood, which is supposed to be about stock trading for the little guy, RobinHood decided on Thursday, you know what, we're going to halt trading on GameStop, AMC, Best Buy, a whole bunch of other stocks that these Wall Street Bets guys on Reddit were telling everybody to buy. And the hedge funds were getting destroyed as a result of this. And now a lot of people are looking at RobinHood and saying, what gives? You're supposed to be about protecting the small-time investor, the guy just trying to make a few bucks. You're supposed to be protecting that guy, and now you're telling them they can't buy the GameStop stock, and all they could do is sell it, which caused the price to tank today. It went down to $144 or $145. Now it's gone up in after-hours trading, but a lot of people probably lost a lot of money. And it probably allowed for some of those short sellers to finally close their short sells and at least get out with less of a loss than they would have accrued had the stock continued to climb. So I want to get into it because here's the reality, folks. We live in an age of distrust, at least as far as the United States is concerned. We live in an era of misinformation. We live in a time where 47% of people surveyed recently said, yeah, you know what, that COVID vaccine, even though it's going to kill 500,000 people by, the end of February, even though it's going to kill 500,000 people, yeah, I don't trust that COVID vaccine. Why? Because you have anti-vaxxers. Why? Because you have misinformation being put into the ethos. And as a result, you have people that don't want to get involved in the stock market. They don't want to get involved in vaccines or don't want to take vaccines. They think it's bad. They think it's dangerous. They think it's going to harm them. When in reality right now, it's something that could save your life in the case of COVID. So we live in this age of mistrust. Well, the election was rigged. 70% of Republicans still think Donald Trump was the rightful winner and Joe Biden didn't really win the election. We live in an age of mistrust. People storming the Capitol. We don't trust our police. These are all just pieces of this era of mistrust. Mistrusting government, mistrusting each other. And when you see a story like this, one of those areas where you think, well, maybe I can get ahead is the stock market. Well, now you can't trust that because the people helping to run the game are rigging it in favor of these hedge funds that were getting destroyed as of earlier in the day. So what does it all mean? What does it all mean for you? What does it mean for people who are playing in the markets? What does it mean if you're trying to be one of those people that gets ahead? If you're somebody that had stock in Gamestop, what does it mean for you? That's one of the many questions we're going to try to answer today with Brett Arends, who does a great job with Marketwatch. Somebody I've always trusted when it comes to anything related to the markets. I had him on my show out in Palm Springs a number of years ago, and he was really a pleasure to talk to. So we bring him in and get a sense for, he wrote a great column on this, by the way, as well today, to sort of give us a sense of where all this lies. Brett, for people that don't understand short selling, and not to get too into the weeds because a lot of the everyday person doesn't understand this, try and explain to me what the short sellers and these hedge funds were doing with GameStop, and then we'll get into what happened with this massive group from Reddit that basically came in and started buying up shares of GameStop. Try and break that down a little bit for the audience.
Right, yeah. A lot of financial journalists overcomplicate this. They try and explain how a watch works rather than just telling you the time. Ordinarily, you buy a share because you hope it's going to go up in price. You buy Apple at $100, hoping it's going to go to $200. There are technical ways of basically doing the same in reverse. Selling a share at $200, betting that it's going to go down to $100 to make a profit. So it's complicated. It involves borrowing shares and selling shares you don't own and all sorts of stuff. That doesn't matter. That is like, the mechanics inside the watch. What it means is that essentially hedge funds, lots of hedge funds, lots of speculators with billions of dollars were betting. They were basically betting effectively with borrowed money that GameStop, the stock, would fall and would keep falling. So they had huge bets that this thing was going to keep going down. It's just like betting a share is going to go up, but in reverse. So they were betting it was going to go down. The problem with that is, for technical reasons, it leaves you a bit exposed because you've basically sold shares that you don't already own. You're hoping to buy them back later. So you sell a share at $100 saying, I'm going to buy it back at $10 next month, right? But you don't own the share. So what happened is you are vulnerable to what's called a short squeeze. And this is not the first short squeeze. This has gone on. A friend of mine, I was telling her, go and read a classic Wall Street book called Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. It's a great read. It's an airplane book. I mean, it is literally a book you can read on a long distance flight. It is a page turner. It's a memoir of a guy called Jesse Livermore 100 years ago, who was a stock operator, and he was famous for betting against the market, betting on things going down, on short selling. The problem is, if you are making that bet, you are vulnerable to a concerted push in the other direction. What happened is all these Redditors got together and they started buying up the stock, and there were tons and tons of them. And it's a bit like a tweet storm. It's like, on this tweet storm, somebody says something unfortunate on Twitter, and a million people, all suddenly pile on. All these people on Reddit suddenly jumped in and started buying the shares, and they were pushing it up, and so they bought more. And then suddenly, these hedge funds who had made this bet on the stock going down were suddenly exposed. They were suddenly like, we're losing money. We're betting, we've basically bet with borrowed money that the stock is going to fall, and it's rising. It's going against us, and we're in trouble. We could go bankrupt. Suddenly, we could owe lots of people stock that we don't own. So essentially, it was, they were overstretched, and these Redditors got together and drove them back, and the hedge fund guys got into all sorts of trouble, and they had to close out their positions. They lost tons. They lost billions in some cases. And it's a fascinating story. It's one of the most remarkable stories I can recall. And it is sort of, I think, the first time I have really felt we are now back in the madness that I remember from the dot-com bubble of 1999, 2000. This is one of those stories. People were saying for years, ever since the dot-com crash in 2000, people were saying, oh, are we back in another bubble? You had to live through it to know how insane it was at the time. It was absolute madness. It was one of those things you'll never forget. Things you could tell your it's like watching Tom Brady going to the Super Bowl. You'll be telling your grandkids about this. So this and Bitcoin are two of the things which we are now in wacko market bubble territory. And you're in a bubble because crazy things start happening. You're at the edge of the space-time continuum, and all sorts of weird things happen.
All right, so Brett, we're talking with Brett Arends of Marketwatch. Explain the RobinHood element of this. I just watched Vlad Tenev in an interview on one of the cable news networks trying to explain away the decision for RobinHood, which is supposed to be about the little guy. It's supposed to be about the everyday man and about, hey, even you can go and trade in stocks and make tons of money, and this is great. Well, now today, they shut down a number of stocks, one of them being Gamestop. And as a result, the stock that was, $340, $350 was
Yep.
down at one point, I think down to about $140. It's gone up in after-hours trading. But the reality is, a lot of people may have lost a lot of money today. And some people are saying, hey, they were doing it at the behest of the hedge funds. He says that's not true. He's hiding behind, I feel like he's hiding behind saying this blanket term of regulatory requirements and financial requirements. Where's the truth in this?
Right. Well, the thing is, I don't know the inside details at RobinHood, and that there are going to be lawsuits, and this is going to be played out in the courts. This is going to be a fascinating paper trail going on. I have never really understood the RobinHood rationale. It's one of those things where people say, oh, Grandpa, I'm 52. Grandpa, you just don't get it. It's like, you've been able to buy stock for, $8 a trade at, well-known brokerage houses for years. If you need to get your stock trades below $8 a trade, you're probably over trading. The reality is, for every successful GameStop, ramp like this, there are 1,000 cases where ordinary retail investors trade and trade and trade and end up losing all their money. I've seen it over and over and over and over again. Warren Buffett has made more money on the stock market than anyone in history, and he likes to say that the stock market is a great mechanism for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. So people who are running around, if you literally are worried about saving $8 on your trades, you are trading too much. I remember when trading was expensive. $8 really? That's you'd be lucky to get out of Starbucks for $8. So people went to RobinHood and it's free. Well, there's an old saying in the tech industry: if you're getting something for free, you're not the customer, you're the product. They're selling you to somebody else. It's like Google. Oh yeah, we give you free email, except we just, we sell your eyeballs to the advertisers. If you're getting something for free, you're not the customer, you're the product, because somebody is paying. So I understand that the RobinHood order for, look, I haven't looked into this in details about where they get their money. It is not a subject that has interested me enormously. I am not, I think that overtrading and day trading are, the route to poverty, not the route to riches. So I don't know what was going on with RobinHood and why they did this. There are going to be lawsuits. It is going to be very upsetting if ordinary people lose money just because the rules were changed on them, halfway through the game. That is going to be very, very upsetting, and that's going to be a legal issue. In terms of...
Could the SEC get involved?
Yeah, everyone's involved in this. Everyone's involved in this, and I am not sure that they need to be. I'm not saying...
Wow.
I don't want to be... there is a tendency these days where everyone has a strong opinion whether they know everything or not. I'm not saying I know that they don't need to be. I'm saying I am not convinced yet that this needs a heavy regulatory hand. What you have is a bunch of people on Reddit who have essentially done to hedge funds what hedge funds have been doing all the time. Tucker Carlson, interestingly enough, did a whole thing this evening.
I saw it.
On Fox. Yeah, on Bill Ackman. And he was absolutely right. And I have seen hedge fund managers go on CNBC and talk about how Bitcoin is going to the moon and they're long Bitcoin. And it was interesting. I wrote this article today just basically giving people advice. I wish them the best. Somebody said you have to disclose your position. Let it be very clear here. I am absolutely, strictly, and utterly forbidden in any shape or form from ever holding any stock that I'm writing about or having any position. If I was long or short of GameStop, I would not write about it in a million years. I mean, this idea, what's your position? It's like, look, these hedge fund managers go on and say, buy or sell stuff that they're talking their book. When I write about something, I have no interest. So I saw about, Bill Ackman, and I've seen this with hedge fund managers about Bitcoin. They do this all the time. And, suddenly a bunch of Redditors do it, and they're all out in, look, it's out in the open. It's up there on a chat room. If it was a closed chat room, a closed email chain, there would be a stronger argument for saying this is secret collusion. But I'm not sure that people doing this out in the open constitutes, market manipulation that has to be cracked down on. If they have to crack down on this, why weren't they cracking down on the hedge fund managers going on CNBC talking their book? Why are they cracking down now? It's here in the U.S. It's suddenly become very political. Yesterday, I was amazed. I saw Chris Cillizza at CNN had suddenly made this about Trump. I was like, really? I mean, I don't know what those guys at CNN are going to do when if Trump doesn't run for office again. If the Senate basically blocks Trump from running for office again, CNN, they're going to be in trouble because they got nothing. Everything. How do they tie everything to Trump? So this was tied to Trump. But then Rush Limbaugh, he obviously saw Chris Cillizza's piece and said, "Oh, I can run with this." So he's now made it about Trump on the other side. So it's like these are the regular people fighting back against the elites. Tucker Carlson has now picked up the baton. Actually, it's not any of that. It is, look, some individuals are jumped on Reddit and they've made some quick money at the expense of some hedge funds. Enjoy it, making money. All I'm saying is
get out with it.
It's this. There's a big difference between trading and investing, and the difference is really short term. And look, I just say this because I made a lot of money during the .com bubble. Mainly when I just didn't know. I was too young to know what the hell I was doing. And it's a real virtue during a bubble to be young, stupid, and crazy. But you have to. I saw a lot of people make money and then lose it all.
Mm-hmm.
And investing is a long-term business, and trading is a short-term business. One of the things that saddens me is I meet people who have basically sat out the bull market of the last 20 years because they lost money trading in the .com bubble. And they said, "Oh, I don't invest in the stock market." It's like, look, you don't have to speculate. If you just basically parked a bit of money in the stock market in an index fund every month.
Yeah, you mentioned you mentioned Vanguard, you mentioned all these, places where you could have parked your money over the years and you'd be fine.
Look, there's nothing wrong with gambling. I know that there's a puritanical streak against gambling. I lived in England for many years where gambling is part of the culture. The Queen gambles. When I'm in England, I go to the horse races, and I actually, a professional, a woman I met years ago in a tapas bar told me how to make money professionally at horse racing, which I'll probably write about someday, how to make money at the bookmakers. So I'm all in favor of gambling. I'm just saying, don't confuse gambling. My late friend Peter Bennett said, just don't confuse trading and investing. They're two different things.
Well,
so trade, have fun, but don't gamble money you can't afford to lose, and get out.
It's almost the casino equivalent of, you have the hedge funds basically betting for 7 at the craps table, basically betting on everybody who's rolling to lose their money, and we always hate those people when we're at the craps table. And then you have these people trying to get in and get out quickly. What would you say? And I saw the conversation tonight with the guy running Wall Street Bets, Jamie Rogozinski. What would you say to the argument that he's almost facilitating that next generation? It's almost like facilitating problem gamblers and giving them the venue by which to, this idea of YOLO. You only live once. Hey, I'm taking my check from work this week. What would you say to that sort of crowd?
Well, the problem is, this is a philosophical argument, and you can make that argument about banning cigarettes. You can make that argument about banning alcohol. You can make that argument about banning gambling. I mean, it is, and there are. Look, I know someone who was a gambling addict, and it was incredibly destructive. And addiction is not the same as someone having fun doing something.
No, I've been there, so I know. I've been there personally, so I definitely know all about it.
Yeah, and so I know someone who was addicted to gambling. And I know in the UK there is a bookmaker on every street corner. It's like a Starbucks, and you can go in and bet on. And there are horse races going all the time. And it exists, and I'm sure there are problem gamblers, and I think dealing with addiction is an issue, no question about that. On the other hand, we shouldn't be encouraging people. I don't know who we is. I don't know what that encouraging means. We are allowing people to gamble on the stock market. Well, all over the world, people gamble on all sorts of stuff, and they gamble on sports. And are we going to ban it? Is it wrong? That you can, even when you're sitting at your desk at work, you can still be in the bookmakers. So you can't get away from it. It's like having a pack of cigarettes always in your pocket. It's like it's going to be harder to quit smoking.
Let me get you out with one on Bitcoin, only because I have you, and it has been such a crazy ride. It was up around, I think, 42 or 43,000, dropped back down to about 30. Now it's around 34. Everybody's trying to guess what's going to happen next with this. In full disclosure, I'm a tiny amount of money in Bitcoin. Talk to me a little bit about what you anticipate. Is there any way to anticipate what happens over the next 12 months when it comes to Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is a perfect illustration of what I was saying earlier about investing and trading. And for the benefit of people at home, this is not just something I've made up. This is something taught to me by investors I have known, money managers who've had decades of successful experience in very, very turbulent markets. Bitcoin is or has been an excellent trade. If you follow the momentum, when it started to rise, if you bought a bit and it rose, and then you bought a bit more and it bought a bit more, you're making a lot of money short term. It's been an excellent trade, and if you want to follow the trend and bet on it, short-term moves, dive right in. I have no opinions. As an investment, I wouldn't touch it with a 100-foot pole. And I know I get all sorts of people so angry at me at this. It has no value whatsoever. I'm really sorry. 10 years ago, I used to get hate mail from gold bugs. Now I get hate mail from Bitcoin bugs who are just basically millennial gold bugs. They're basically millennials who have the same argument that